Frontier Culture Museum is in Staunton, Virginia, right off of Interstate 81. It's in the Valley and Ridge region of Virginia.
I'm David.
And I'm Alfonso,
and we're Virginia Trekkers. And we're here today at the Frontier Culture Museum in the Valley and Ridge region of Virginia.
Well, we're talking about the immigrants, the Scotch-Irish, the English, and the Germans. We're going to teach you about what brought them here to America.
And we're going to show you some of the houses that they used to live in their home countries, and also what some early houses here in America look like.
So if you're ready, let's get trekking.
All right. Now you may be wondering why the Frontier Museum is right here in Staunton, Virginia. Well, it's because the trail that the immigrants came into Virginia on passed right through here. And we talked about that in the Roanoke podcast. It was called the Great Wagon Road.
In the distance, you're going to hear a lot of cars. That's I-81. That's the major interstate to get over to Roanoke. That used to be where the wagons went, but they weren't going quite as fast.
And you'll see that the Scotch-Irish and the Germans were the main ones who used this path to get to Virginia because they came from Pennsylvania, down south.
All right, boys and girls, we're going to show you today how the Irish, the English from England, the Germans from Germany, and the Africans all came to America.
Let's get started by visiting a house from West Africa.
Hey boys and girls, here we are at the West African section of the Frontier Museum. In the background you can see a typical hut that you would have found in West Africa.
And the reason why this is part of the Frontier Museum is because they took many slaves from West Africa and brought them here to Virginia to work in the tobacco farms.
From the 1600s to 1700s, they brought approximately 250,000 Africans to colonial America.
And now if Alfonso would get out of the way, I'm going to talk about the houses here for a second. The Africans came from a part of Africa that was rainforest. So they had a lot of mud to build their homes and leaves for the roofs, as you can see in this example.
And if I get Dave out of the way, speaking of mud, not only they used it for the houses, but when they came back, part of what they did was make items such as pottery, basket weaving, and they would sell that, and that brought that kind of contribution to America as well.
Our next stop is visiting the English house.
Here we are in an English house, and you know the English were the first people who settled here in Virginia, in Jamestown.
The English primarily came over for opportunities. Back in England, they didn't have an opportunity to really own their own land. But coming here to America, they had that opportunity to own their own farms and lead a better life.
And this is the way the houses looked in England. So this isn't really the way they looked here in America. They kind of had to build them a little bit different. We're going to take you inside and show you what kind of houses they had back in England and how they may have influenced their life here in America.
Let's go take a closer look. All right, boys and girls, here we are inside the English house. In this house would be a wealthy person known as a yeoman. Usually the wealthier kind of folks who lived in this type of house. They would own about 100 to 300 acres of farmland. I'm standing inside the kitchen area. This is where they did the cooking. And you can see the fire. You can also see how they used iron as their hooks to keep the pots on, and actually iron to do their cooking in. We happen to be here in the month of December. Let's go join Dave. He's going to tell us a little bit about their traditions.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to come here during Christmas time, and we found out that a lot of our Christmas traditions come from the English. So that's one of their contributions to us, how we celebrate our holidays. And there's one of them. They would hang holly and ivy in the halls. So deck the halls. That's where that song came from.
Let's go take a look at the Irish house.
All right, here we are in an Irish house, and you'll see this house is going to be a lot different than the English house because it's more of a house for a poor family. A lot of the reason why the Scotch-Irish came to America was for two reasons. One, to get land because they didn't have a lot of land in Ireland, and also for religious freedom.
And you're going to notice that a lot of the structure and a lot of the surrounding areas of the house are made of stone. And a big reason of this is that they had a plenty abundance of stone in Ireland. But once they came to America, a slight change was made, and a lot of their houses and the things around it were starting to be made out of wood. Soo-wee! Boys and girls, here we are at the Scotch-Irish farm, and they were known for the agriculture, but also with raising livestock. We have a couple pigs here, and this is one item that they raise. They used it for the fat, they used it for their meat. And you see how they had to make sure that the pigs get fed for they can get nice and big. Here's my friend, Mr. Cat.
Since I'm allergic to cats, let's go on to the German house.
The Germans were the largest non-English speaking European group to come to America. A lot of the reason why the Germans came here was because for religious freedom and also to have a better life, just like the other immigrants. A lot of the farms in Europe were getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and so here in America there's plenty of land for a nice big farm. Dankeschön. That's thank you in German.
Dankeschön! Germans would make their house the same way that we were talking about with Jamestown settlers. They used a wattle and daub technique.
And boys and girls, this was pretty cool. All over Europe in those days, they wore wooden shoes. So they didn't have nice sneakers like we had. They had wooden shoes like this. And it was actually very practical because it was waterproof, and if a cow or something stepped on your foot, it wouldn't hurt you. So Alfonso's gonna pan down and show my awesome shoes. It feels very comfy, actually, Alfonso.
Now it's time to take a look at some American houses.
All right, so we've been showing you the houses of the Scotch-Irish, the German, the English, how they lived in their home countries. Well, when they came here, they had to make their houses all over again.
This was an example of the type of house that they would need to build quickly, so they would work on it as fast as they can because they would want to survive the cold winters that were just about to approach on them. They were living here for about 3 years. While they were living here, they would aspire to be living into a little bit of a bigger house. So we're going to travel down the road just a little bit. We're going to show you what a little larger house would look like.
And boys and girls, do you remember which U.S. president was born in a log cabin?
If you said President Abraham Lincoln, good job.
Next, we'll take a look at a house from the 1820s.
All right, we showed you that log cabin that was really simple. Well, they would only live there a few years, and then they'd move into a bigger house where they could take their time and build it really nice.
And you're going to notice there are like 2 chimneys. You're going to notice the shingles are a little bit different. They're a little bit more structured, that they don't have to put mud in between. You'll notice that in between the logs, they have a little bit harder compact type of mud, so it made it a little bit more insulated. And if we go inside, you're going to see how much larger it is. So let's go take a look. This house is based off of a German model because we can tell by the furniture. One of the contributions that the Germans brought here to America was finely painted furniture. And you can see this beautiful chest and how well painted it is. And it also has a nice little grooves and intricacies that the furniture that the Germans made.
Our last stop, a house from the 1850s.
All right, so here we are at the last house. You can see they're starting to look more like your house.
So we're going to go inside. We're going to see what model it takes place. Do you think it's going to look more like the German, the Scotch-Irish, or the English? Well, let's go inside and let's take a look.
And keep in mind, this is a house from the 1850s. So here we are inside, and you can see that now in the 1850s, a lot of these culture groups have combined together. They aren't so concerned about sticking with just the Germans together and the Scotch-Irish together. They've kind of married between each other. They all speak English now, and they consider themselves Americans. So you'll see in this house, there's contributions from every group. Like right here, remember we talked about the Christmas traditions from England? And here we see it. Alfonso's going to tell you some of these other contributions that he sees.
So we talked a little bit about the German lifestyle as well. We talked about how they had good woodwork with painted furniture. So in this house, we see a lot of that. We see different types of furniture, probably coming from different cultures as well.
So you see, everybody has a contribution to make. Everybody has good ideas, and when we combine our good ideas together, we come up with great ideas. And you can do the same thing in your classroom by working together. Well, boys and girls, I hope you've enjoyed your tour of the Frontier Museum in Staunton, Virginia.
I know we have. We've had a great time showing you the different cultures.
We saw a farm in Africa.
We have seen where the English came in.
We saw a Scotch-Irish house.
And then we traveled to the Germans.
And finally, we took you through some American houses, all the way from the log cabin to a house from the 1850s.
And you can see how with all these cultural changes, that the houses that you live in today represent a little bit of what each one of these cultures have brought to you.
And you should research your family tree and see if you have any English, Scotch-Irish, German, or African in your family.
Be proud of your heritage, and remember, keep on trekking.
Let's go on to the next part of this museum. That was stupid.
Some very important contributions that they brought were, it wasn't religion, was it? I forgot what it was.
He needs to do his research, boys and girls. Now let me go on.
I have a very, very bad memory. I looked at this, but if it's past 3 minutes, I don't remember it anymore. That's called old age.
You alright?
Boys and girls, as you can see by these chickens' awesome hairdos, these chickens know how to party.
As Dave said, lots of partying. You probably have heard of the chicken dance. I'm wondering if this is where it came from.